Hello everyone. So, I have a mixed media layout for you today. This layout is inspired by two things. Uh, a challenge that Virginia Walker issued us in her Facebook group, Confessions of a Paper Addict, and my desire to play with these Prima watercolors that I've kind of been looking at and not touching. So they came in the color kit for Clique Kits this month, and I'm going to be playing with those. I'm going to start with some iridescent glaze, and I'm going to add some of this kind of shimmery paint from Prima. This was in a past color kit. It's called Opal Magic, and I'm just going to add a bit of it. You can see there it's like gold, but purpley, and it's stunning. I have two different colors of this paint, and I love it. So I'm mixing it up with Vicki Boutin's iridescent glaze, and then I'm going to put it through a stencil. And I'm actually going to use those stencils you see up at the top of my page. These are Vicki Boutin stencils. I think they're from Field Notes. I think they're the stencils from Field Notes. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this gorgeous iridescent glaze that I've made kind of purpley and gold and beautiful through the stencils. I'm creating a little bit of a scene, so I'm going to put these little branch flowery things towards the bottom of my page, and I'm going to put the butterflies at the top. So this layout is going to be quite a bit different than what I usually do. So my way of doing a layout is generally pick my products, find a photo, get a layout idea in my head, and then go. Not what I did here. So I started by just wanting to play with these products. And I didn't have a photo in mind, and I didn't have a layout in mind. In fact, I wasn't even 100% sure I was going to use these pieces as a layout. I thought maybe I would just do cards or something, and I just wanted to play. And I sure did play, because I ended up with 2 hours of video that I had to kind of like sift through for today's post. So if it seems a bit longer than usual, that's why. So I ran out of the paste, and I wanted to do one more butterfly. So what I'm going to do here is I mixed up some more paste, but of course, I'm going to end up mixing up more than what I wanted to use. So we're going to end up with bonus fun today on today's video. This is not for the faint of heart. I don't recommend that you do this unless you absolutely have to, and only after you've practiced a few times, because that's a little bit harder to do if you don't have your stencil kind of attached. So I got a brand new sheet of paper, and this is all Basil Marshmallow cardstock. I got a brand new sheet of paper, and now I'm putting the rest of that leftover paste through, or glaze, through a stencil from Altenew. This is the Mega Rose stencil. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous stencil. You'll see here in a second. So then I cleaned up and cleaned and let everything dry for, a good hour. And then I came back, and I wanted to play with the watercolors off camera just to see what they did. And so what I did was I took that extra piece of paper that I had put the extra glaze on, and I went ahead and I played around and got a feel for how these liquid watercolors worked, because I've never played with them before. And you can see there what I did. I went ahead and I added the watercolor over top of the paper, and now I'm going to do the same thing with this other sheet I've made, and everything's good and dry now. So you only need a teensy tiny little bit of this watercolor. Just literally one drop. You see what one drop created, right? Oy, craziness. So the way that I'm going to play with these watercolors is I'm going to take this large wide brush, and I'm going to start by first wetting underneath. Now, the water will kind of react to the glaze. The glaze is completely, utterly dried and cured, but it's still, like the glaze will get kind of just a little bit re-tacky, which it didn't bother me. It wasn't a big deal, but if you do this technique and it happens, take a deep breath. It's okay. It's supposed to do that, and it will dry, and it will be gorgeous and beautiful, and don't even fret at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watercolor the elements first. On the elements, I'm giving them a darker, more saturated watercolor. I'm using less water and more pigment. And I'm using this little watercolor brush, and I'm going to go ahead and try. So my plan here is to get not so much water on the glaze and more water on the paper. There are 3 colors of this watercolor in the Clique Kits color kit this month, and I used all 3. And I'm just going to go in to my get into all these nooks and crannies and just get some water down. And then I'm going to get some pigment down. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to keep working here, working through, and deciding what I want to do. Put my water down, and then put my pigment down. And this will help to get all of the color, a more saturated color, over the butterflies. And then I'm going to do the same thing down below on the little sprigs. They kind of look like baby's breath, maybe, I'm not sure. So fast forward a little bit, and I'm doing the same exact technique at the bottom as I did at the top. First water, then pigment. And if at any point during painting something like this you feel like you have too much, colors are too saturated, you want something a little bit colored back, just get a dry paper towel and blot it up. And the dry paper towel will just soak it all out. And then you can either start over, or you can, if you like how that looks and you don't want more, then you can leave it like that. So this was super fun just to paint this. And you can see here, I'm just dropping the color in. My technique is not hard. Just drop the color in, because the color will react with the water and then kind of blossom out, which is actually really cool to see. So next thing we're going to do, I'm going to take the teensiest, littlest bit of paint. I'm going to water it down a lot, and I'm going to color back all my background. Now, I am coloring straight. I'm painting straight over all the other stuff. And what it does is all of those watercolors are going to react with everything else, and you're going to end up with something that is very watercolory and surreal, and things are kind of blossom, and the watercolor is going to do what the watercolor is meant to do. So I wanted a bit of an ombre, so I didn't go all the way down to the bottom of my paper, and I'm just going to give it a nice wash of color. And you can see here I'm going to grab my paper towels, because I think I blotted up just a little bit here and there, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it some splatters. So I'm not even adding any more pigment. So this is just those 3 drops. You see what I got with those 3 drops. I am in love with watercolors that do this. I have a new set of Vicki Bouton's watercolor pens on their way to me that will do the same thing. Like just a drop, just a little tiny bit, and you've got it. So I'm going to go ahead and do lots of splatters, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry. And I still have no clue what I'm doing with these backgrounds. I was just playing. But I'm going to come back to this one. So this is completely dry now, and I am one of those people that if I make something and then don't do something with it, like if I just set it aside, like if I make a mixed media background and then I just set it aside, it's never going to get used. I don't know why. It's like I have a mental block there. So I decide I don't want this to go to waste. I went ahead and did this so I didn't have to go to waste. So I'm going to cut this rose down to the size of a A2 card base, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And then I went ahead and I die cut a whole mess of die cuts. And after I was done with the layout, I made 2 cards with those, and I'll have those up on my Instagram probably tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to get it done today because we're having really bad weather and I don't have light for photography. So I'm just taking a baby wipe here, and I am ever so lightly wiping it. No, it doesn't look like it's ever so lightly, but it's ever so lightly. I'm wiping it over that glaze just to pull off some of the pigment that may have settled on it. And there are all of the pieces I got with my playtime. Now, like I said, if I don't go ahead and use stuff right away, it's not going to get used. I'm horrible about that. So I went ahead through all of my photos. I actually came up with quite a few that would match this background, and I kind of asked my besties, which photo do you think would work? And so we ended up with these 2, which are of my nieces, and I knew that my background was very purple and very blue. and my photos have a lot of purple in them. So what I decided to do was to offset that. Keep it light, keep it not to the point where it's like saturated monochromatic dark purple, was that I'm going to pull in the peachy color from the kit. So you saw me there, I'm going through all the things, and I'm just going to pull some of these peachy pinks, and I'm going to use those. I decided on a grid layout, well, like a wonky grid, because there were parts of the stenciling that I didn't want to cover up. I really wanted to kind of put them on show. I wanted you to be able to see what the background was, like what it looked like. And so this, seemed to be the best way to go about doing that. And so I'm going to take these two pieces from the cut apart sheet. These are from the 6x8 paper pad, and I'm just going to staple them together so that I didn't lose my idea, and I knew how I wanted things to lay out. And I knew that I wanted those two pieces attached to those labels attached to those pieces, so that made it really easy to be able to just staple them together and then have a huge area to play with. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to take those photos. I'm just fidgeting. Ignore me. I want to take those two photos and I'm going to matte them. I end up matting them both just on the peachy pink. I decided I didn't want to bring that wood grain into the layout. But that peachy color really set the photos off and kind of popped them away from the kind of busy dark background. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to matte them, and then we'll continue on with finding little bits and pieces to add to the layout. Oh, I wanted to add just a little bit of information here for you. So I am adhering everything down with wet glue. There is so much media on this background paper that your tape runner won't stick to it. And I'm using a T-square ruler because I want to get this grid perfectly straight. I want to get it nice and matted. And once I have those papers and this kind of wonky grid really nice and straight, then I know that I can build off of it, and it will be straight. So I generally am not too worried about straightness, except when I do a grid. I want nice straight lines when I do a grid. So I'm going to use my T-square ruler. I'm going to get everything adhered down with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and then I'm going to continue on. We're going to keep the end of this video super short and sweet. So I chose my title, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the embellishments that came in the kit. I'm going to pull colors that match my layout. I start thinking I'm going to use this orange flower from Pink Fresh, but I'm not. And I'm just going to go ahead and embellish everything and pull everything down through. The main reason for this video and the main reason that I went ahead and recorded it was more for the mixed media portion and to show you all what you can do with this super fun color kit this month from Clique Kits. And the rest is literally just me sticking and plunking embellishments. So my main thought about embellishments was just to keep things to the colors I already had on the page and not introduce new ones. I decided to go with the butterfly motif because I had those little moths up at the top, and I felt like it would just kind of coordinate and bring some of the icons and some of the colors that are in the background and kind of introduce them into the top layer so that everything would kind of be cohesive. And I did the same thing with those ferns and the little leafy bits that I chose. Some things I popped up off the page, the butterflies I did for sure, and the rest is just kind of attached down at the bottom. Attached, I mean glued. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. I did have to add extra adhesive to my letters and everything. I stuck everything down with the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. So this is going to complete the layout. I'm going to give it one more look and make sure I like it. It's a little bit busier than what I usually like, just because the background is quite busy, but I really, really like it. I think it turned out super cute. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you made it to the end of my 15-minute video, you are a rock star and I love you. Hit that like button and I'd love to hear any comments you have. Here are some close-ups and I will see you all again soon. Bye.